Following his comprehensive victory against the French and Bavarian forces at the Battle of Blenheim in 1704, the Duke of Marlborough was keen to follow up his success in 1705 with a planned invasion of France through the Moselle Valley. However, the reluctance of the allies of the Grand Alliance to commit troops for the venture, and with the French marshals of Villeroy and Villars deployed on the Meuse, Marlborough was forced to cancel the campaign. 1706 saw Marlborough again planning a campaign to attack France via the Moselle. However, shortly after arriving in the Dutch Republic on the 14th of April, Marlborough received news of an Austrian defeat by the French at Calcinato on April the 19th. With this reverse, the Dutch refused to weaken their position by joining Marlborough's campaign. Therefore, Marlborough altered his plans and prepared to campaign in the Low Countries. With Villeroy deployed behind strong defensive lines on the Dial River, Marlborough left Le Hague on May the 9th without much hope of bringing the French to battle. By the 17th of May, he had concentrated his troops near Maastricht. However, the French Bourbon king, Louis XIV, wanted to achieve peace on favourable terms, and in order to achieve that, he needed a victory on the battlefield. Therefore, Villeroy left Louvain on May the 18th with a force of 60,000 men to seek battle. Neither side knew exactly the location of their opponent. The French moved first to Tynan and then onwards to Jodoin, taking them towards the village of Ramillies, where they planned to make camp on the 22nd of May. Early on the morning of the 23rd of May, Marlborough sent his Quartermaster General with an advance guard to reconnoitre the ground around Ramillies, with his main force following some 2 hours later. Later that morning, Marlborough's advance guard exchanged shots with a party of French hussars on the plateau of Gendarmerie. Shortly after, they discovered the advance guard of Villeroy's main force. On receiving the news, Marlborough, accompanied by the Dutch field commander, Field Marshal Overkirk, went forward with the advance guard and observed the French army deploying for battle along a 4-mile front. By late morning, the Allied army of 62,000 men had deployed. On their right wing, near the village of Fultz, were positioned British infantry battalions. To their left, in the centre of the Allied line, were deployed the massed Allied infantry stretching southwards towards the village of Ramillies, with cavalry support. Positioned opposite Ramillies, the Allies had deployed a battery of 30 24-pounders. Further batteries were positioned along the Allied line, overlooking the Petit River. On their left wing, on the plain between the villages of Taviers and Ramillies, the Allies had deployed the bulk of their cavalry, supported on their left by Allied infantry and some artillery close to the main river. Meanwhile, the Franco-Bavarian forces of 60,000 men had deployed in a concaved, arched line. On their right wing, they had deployed infantry with artillery support in the villages of Franquigny and Taviers on the main river. And similar to the Allies, they had deployed the bulk of their cavalry on the open plain between the villages of Taviers and Ramillies, with some infantry support. along the ridge overlooking the Petite Guite River, running from the village of Ramillies to the village of Orphus and onto the village of Alta-Église. They deployed the bulk of their infantry and fortified each village. They were supported by Bavarian cavalry. On the far left of the Allied positions, at around 1 p.m, following an artillery exchange, the Allied infantry advanced and captured the village of Franquigny, forcing the Franco-Bavarian troops back towards the village of Tavires. The Allied infantry immediately advanced towards Tavires, and after fierce hand-to-hand fighting, the Allies captured the village at about 3 p.m, leaving the Franco-Bavarian right flank vulnerable. The Franco-Bavarians launched an immediate counterattack to recapture Tavires with dragoons and infantry. However, their counterattack was poorly coordinated, and as they approached the village, they were met with concentrated musket volley and artillery fire. And as the Franco-Bavarian troops began to waver, they were attacked by Allied cavalry, leading to them withdrawing in some disorder and exposing the right flank of the Franco-Bavarian army. However, some troops did rally and were able to provide some minor defence. Meanwhile, on the Allied right wing, their infantry began the assault on the heavily defended villages of Orphus and Alta-Église. To counter this threat, Villeroy began to redeploy troops from his centre to reinforce his left wing. As the Allied troops descended into the boggy Petite Guite River valley, they encountered concentrated volley fire from advanced French and Bavarian infantry, causing heavy Allied casualties. Fearing that the Allied assault would result in the infantry being exposed to the Franco-Bavarian cavalry deployed on the plateau of Mont Saint-André, and without sufficient Allied cavalry support, Marlborough ordered the attack to withdraw. Meanwhile, the Allied assault on Ramillies began. The Franco-Bavarian troops defending Ramillies put up a determined resistance, driving the Allied infantry back with severe losses. On observing the faltering Allied attack, Marlborough ordered some of the infantry used during the assault on Orphus and Alta-Église to move south to support the attack on Ramillies. This transfer of troops went undetected by the Franco-Bavarians. At around 3:30 p.m, Overkerg advanced Allied cavalry in support of the infantry attack on Ramillies. Initially, they were able to push back the first and second lines of French cavalry. However, a successful counterattack by elite Franco-Bavarian cavalry units resulted in the Allied cavalry breaking and withdrawing, exposing the left flank of the Allied assault on Ramillies. The Franco-Bavarian cavalry advanced to exploit this gap and split the Allied forces. However, Marlborough had spotted the danger and had begun redeploying the Allied cavalry in the centre to plug the gap. The transfer of cavalry units southwards had given the Allies a distinct numerical advantage. As a result, the Franco-Bavarian cavalry were becoming increasingly hard-pressed. At around 4:30 p.m, the Allied cavalry advanced to take advantage of the gap on the Franco-Bavarian right flank. Pushing aside the weak resistance from the Franco-Bavarian cavalry, who broke and fled in disorder, they managed to sweep around the exposed flank of the Franco-Bavarian army. Villeroy attempted to redeploy his unused cavalry into a defensive line from Orpheus to Mont Saint-Andre. At Ramillies, the reinforced Allied infantry broke through, resulting in the remaining Franco-Bavarian cavalry also leaving the battlefield. The Franco-Bavarian retreat soon became a rout, with the Allied cavalry not allowing them to recover. French casualties during the Battle of Ramillies are estimated at between 15,000 and 22,000, with between 8 and 12,000 dead and wounded, and around 7 to 10,000 captured. Allied casualties are estimated at around 3,500. 5 days after the battle, on May the 28th, 1706, the Allies entered Brussels, the capital of the Spanish Netherlands, and within 2 weeks the French had lost almost the whole of Flanders to Marlborough and had to withdraw to the French border.